probably my biggest love-hate relationship of anything is Japanese. And then you're like, where's he going? Where's he going? And then you're like, the mall. So I've always wondered in Japanese, is it like, and then the mall, and then you're like, did he jump the mall? Did he fly to the mall?
Hello, Jonathan.
Hey, how are you?
I am awesome. How are you?
I'm doing pretty solid. I'm doing all right.
It is really good to meet you in person because I've always only seen your videos. Can you tell our viewers what languages you speak?
Sure. I am, by certificate, I am a B1 Spanish speaker. It comes and goes. Like, I'm a really, really bad polyglot in terms of language acquisition and speaking because I get into a thing where I really, really want to learn something, and then like I may learn it. Like, for example, Esperanto, that's another language that I speak, was the first language that I got to a point to where I would consider myself fluent, which is a word that I am not really a huge fan of, but I speak a little bit of Spanish, Esperanto, Japanese, Mandarin Chinese, and currently I'm learning Greek and Korean.
I don't think there's anything as a bad language learner, but that actually brings us to what I would love to talk to you about today, which is dabbling in languages within the context of a kind of online polyglot community where people are waiting for your progress, right? They're expecting you to be showing that you're, learning this language, which I think is one harmful thing about the community. For some reason, if you can't show that you've been improving this language, people lose interest or you're fake or whatever. So what do you think about the concept of proving your languages online?
That really hurt me at first because of the idea of, like, I felt like I was letting people... I actually just had a somewhat negative comment on one of my videos about, you dabble, we're expecting this. And I told and he was like, why do you keep doing that? And the comment that I left was simply because I learn languages to make myself happy. I don't owe anybody anything. And if I want to be an A1 in 40 languages, that's what I want. That's not what I want, but if that was what I wanted, that's what I want. And so I think kind of the idea of just learning what you want is a big thing, and progress is not owed to anybody.
Agreed.
And I would much rather have a channel that would document, even if they're dabbling. I don't think there's anything wrong with dabbling. You can learn a ton about cultures dabbling for even a couple of weeks. I'm a really big enemy of the scripted I speak 13 language videos. There's I can't even remember what it was. I remember Kevin Abroad. You know who Kevin Abroad is, right? He had made a post about a girl who had done one, and she had spoken a language, and she just counted to like 5 in a language and counted that as speaking. And I'm like, that's there's so much falsities online. I would rather a channel keep it real and be like, all right, I'm switching languages. All right, cool.
Yeah. If people were to do it in an honest way and say, hey, I am still learning this. I've only learned the numbers and how to say hi, but I'm filming this so I can see my progress in a year's time.
The only one that I'm not the only one, but the one that comes to mind that I'm pretty big fan of is I can't remember his last name. Gabriel. What is his name? He's a Portuguese dude, but he lives in Canada.
Okay.
Anyway, he does one where the video is called like Polyglot Speaks X amount of languages, but the way that he does it is he's walking down the street and there's a camera beside of him and he glances over and he's walking and interacting. I thought that was a cool take on it because I know that he's not got notes just walking in front of his face like that. So at least it is some sort of off the cuff, so to speak. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. So what do you think about dabbling for yourself? Does it ever frustrate you that you seem not to be making really fast progress or moving around with languages a lot?
No, it used to, but not really anymore. I just like to have fun with languages. And I think one of the biggest things is that this is a hobby. This isn't my job. And so, like, if this was my job, if I made money off of this, like, Ollie Richards or Moses McCormick, I think I would feel a lot more really honed in and focused on something. But from where this is just a hobby, I'm perfectly satisfied with what I do and what I can do.
Would you say your goals for each language have changed over time?
Yes, absolutely. When I first started learning languages was in 2009. I started studying Japanese, and I think I had watched some sort of Japanese movie, and I was like, okay, I'm going to learn Japanese. And of course, 2009, I had never studied language before or anything like that, and I was like, I'm going to jump straight into this. How hard can it be? And I can remember taking, because I had no experience to learning at all, I can remember taking a month to learn hiragana, and I still to this day struggle with katakana. I don't know what it is about it, but I can't. It's really hard for me. But so I jumped into that, and my goal was just this idea of this fluency in Japanese and be able to just speak and converse. And then just over the course of time, it just kind of changed. Where I'm at now, my goals are nothing like that at all. I don't watch TV or movies anymore, so that's kind of changed. And my goal now is to learn a language that I can go down the road. I can stop in this Greek restaurant 40 minutes down the road, and I can order food and speak a little bit of Greek. There's a Korean restaurant about 45 minutes away from me. I can go there and do that, and that's kind of where my goals have changed. My goals have changed from being able to pretend I'm in this country to speaking to people around me.
On the note of starting Japanese without prior experience in language learning, how did you dive into such a complex language from the start? What was your method?
The method from the start was Rosetta Stone.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a lot of people have a negative mindset about Rosetta Stone. How did you find it?
I Googled just how to learn Japanese, and there was two things that came up. One was Rosetta Stone, and the other was Rocket Japanese.
Wow, of all things. Okay.
Yeah. And I tried Rocket Japanese. I actually even bought the lifetime membership for like $100, and that was kind of when I found out that I don't like not podcasts. Like, I love listening to native podcasts, but these 10 minutes where 9 minutes of it is English and maybe 30 seconds is telling you how to, all the pod101.coms, like, it's just, I know people love them, but it's really hard for me to get into. Yeah. And so then I tried Rosetta Stone, and I struggled with it too, because their big thing is you learn naturally, so there's no they don't give you any kind of explanations, and that is hard. But also there are still some things, like even to this day, it doesn't matter if I don't touch Japanese for a year, when I hear Ringo, it's like there's no translation. Like, I heard it so many times and saw the picture of the apple so many times, like it's internal. So
would you recommend Rosetta Stone?
I think the biggest issue with Rosetta Stone is people are expecting something out of it that it's not going to give you.
That is true.
I think if you use it, and you, first and foremost, all the reviews that you see are people who have not even completed, they've definitely not completed the full, like, 5 or 6 courses of it, but they've probably not even finished one. And so it's hard for me to take those reviews serious, because they're like, I did 10 lessons and I'm not fluent. That's, well,
obviously.
So
you can do 10 lessons in a day if you, like, binge study, right?
Yeah.
And I think there are still a few people who are stuck in this mindset that language learning is a very expensive or privileged thing. Yes, to some extent you do have to have at least, data and internet access and a device, speaking outside of textbooks right now. But unfortunately, with SEO and companies paying for marketing, things that are very expensive like Rosetta Stone will always top it. If there's somebody coming in without any experience in language like you were, and you're searching how to learn Japanese, obviously the first thing that's going to pop up is Rosetta Stone, not ABC person's blog that they spend hours writing these in-depth posts. And that's quite sad, because there is so many resources out there, and it's really hard for people to find. And people also get confused by there's so many things that do the same thing. Where do you start?
Yeah, that's one thing. I don't know if you watch much of Laoshu, Moses McCormick, but most of the time when he goes and he'll start speaking to someone, usually within the first 2 or 3 sentences, when they ask where you learned it, they'll say or ask Rosetta Stone. Like, people who don't study languages knows what Rosetta Stone is, because they've cornered that market. Just their marketing campaign is phenomenal.
They have. I haven't seen them a lot in the past few years, but I know before a lot of these newer apps came out, like before Duolingo, that was pretty much it. Rosetta Stone.
Yeah. Like, in terms of actually speaking the language and not translating in your head, because those are two very different things. I think Rosetta Stone does a really, really good job, personally.
Translating in your head. I teach Korean, and I noticed with a few of my students that when they're reading a sentence in Korean and they have to, say what it means. Let's say the sentence is 나는 학교에서 숙제를 해. I do homework at school. Then they'll translate word for word. So I at the school homework to do, and then they're like, I at the school. Okay, so I do homework at school. So it takes them a very long time to get from internalizing the Korean sentence structure to be able to translate that naturally, because the sentence structure is so different. How are you learning Korean, and how are you overcoming how different the sentence structure is from English?
So I'm not good in Japanese in the slightest, but my 10 plus years of exposure to Japanese, I think, is helping me a lot. The verbs are I do feel like the verbs operate a little bit differently in Korean, in terms of, I feel like there's way more conjugations in Korean. Japanese also has helped the idea of particles. So it's not quite as hard, but that's not undermining how incredibly hard it is.
Yeah. So your base in Japanese is what's helping you through, right?
Right. I love that system, to be honest. Once I finally got the grasp of the idea of particles, I was like, this is amazing. Like, this is a really cool concept.
It is super handy, because halfway through speaking and you haven't finished your sentence, the listener already knows what you're going to say next, right?
Mm-hmm.
Given the particle. If it's an object marker, they know that a verb is coming.
Right.
It makes for good storytelling, because you get to pause, and people kind of expect something even more than they would in English. So they pause a lot more as well.
I always wondered if, like, when they're telling stories, in English, you can set this up, this big cliffhanger, right? And then he went to, and then you're like, where's he going? And then you're like, the mall. So I've always wondered, in Japanese, is it like, and then the mall, and then you're like, did he jump the mall? Did he fly to the mall? Did he go? Like, is it hinged on the verb?
I wondered about that too. That is funny. Yeah.
They're hinged on the verb, and we're hinged on the noun, or whatever.
So the other thing I want to talk to you about is falling out of love with a language. And what are you supposed to do, especially in the polyglot community, when your whole life is pretty much about languages? I mean, it's not either of ours job, but we spend most of our time thinking and talking about it.
Right.
And then, do you ever feel guilty when you fall out of love with a language?
I do. My biggest love-hate relationship on this planet, and I mean even past languages, probably my biggest love-hate relationship of anything, is Japanese.
Oh no.
And because I love it. I mean, I love it. It was one of my first passions. But it's also absolutely broken my heart a million times because of the incredible difficulty of it. I think when people talk about Japanese, like, they really need to appreciate people, you and Steve Kaufman and Matt versus Japan and any of these guys. Like, it is an incredibly hard language. I go through this same old song and dance all the time. Like, I grow out of it, and then I'm like, all right, that's not too bad, so let's go back into it. And 90% of my love-hate with it is the kanji. I can probably recognize several hundred kanji now, but I can't, like with Korean, even now, right? If I'm on Facebook and, like, I have a few Korean friends and I'll see them post something, or if you post, I feel like you post predominantly in Korean. Like, I feel like you post a lot of stuff in Korean, which is good, because I can see it. I may not know what that says, but I can read what you're typing. Later down the road, once my vocabulary is up, I can read it and then be like, okay, I don't recognize whatever this word is. Like, let's say I was reading something and it was about a teacher and I didn't see sanseng nim and I didn't know what that was. I could pull that out and put it in and be like, oh, okay, teacher. As to where Japanese, is that character pronounced this way or that way? I don't know. What's the context of it? Like, and it shatters my brain. Like, I can't.
Oh no.
It just, like, hurts my soul.
What's your plan then with Japanese? I don't think you're anyone to give up, but so I'm gonna take a wild assumption here that you will maybe continue dabbling in Japanese when it's fun for you.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. That is actually a very good point. I lose the fun factor in Japanese because when I first get back into it, I'm not worried about kanji or this or that, and I'll learn a couple of vocabulary words, and I'll even learn them contextually via the kanji or whatever, and then I kind of just I hit that wall again. It'll be off and on. I will never give up Japanese, but a lot of my love recently, and I've been wanting to learn Korean for about 4 years now.
Yeah.
And I've always put it off because I felt like I owed Japanese.
Language guilt is a real thing, man. How important do you think the role of discipline is in that? When is it right to tell yourself, get yourself together, keep learning Japanese, be disciplined about this, even if it's not fun anymore?
This is one of those things where I would be probably keen to take my own advice, because you should never give up. But I feel like I've just made a habit out of it. I actually told my friend Evan that I was going to learn Korean, and he was like, nope, that's dumb. Keep with Japanese. Like, like trying to be like, hey, you always do this. But, I mean, you definitely should never give up, because it will happen. I mean, if you surround yourself with that language, whether you want to learn it or not, I mean, you can make it sink in. You don't think that you're learning anything, but it's... Yeah. The repetition is what makes that happen, and I know that if I would stick with Japanese, like if I stuck with it hardcore a couple of hours a day for a year, I know I would be fine.
I think polyglots by nature are also extremely curious people, and I know for myself though, if I were kind of forced into a schedule of having to do X language for X amount of time every day, I would be so itching to learn other languages, and that makes it hard for me to have a schedule. And people always ask me, so what's your language learning schedule for all these languages? And I can never make a video on that because I don't have a schedule. It's honestly just like whatever I feel like in the moment. And that's not very sustainable actually, because it's a purely emotionally driven process. What do you think about schedules in language learning then, especially for multiple languages?
I think they can be good, but I think they can be bad too, because, and I'm actually going to group this into kind of the idea of these language streaks as well. Your apps that have streaks.
Yeah.
You're good until the schedule breaks, right? You're good until that streak breaks. Once that streak goes away, or once you miss a class or do something, that kills a lot of people. There's some people, I've seen people online complain all the time about their Duolingo streak losing, and they're like, well, now I'm not motivated, or, and I think that if you're a disciplined person, they can be good, but I think if you're not, it's not good.
Especially if they're very performance driven and you're getting points within the streak depending on how much you did per day. Some people kind of rush through those lessons and they're not taking in any information. Nothing is going into your long-term memory. You're kind of just rushing through stuff to get points.
If something happens and you don't hit your mark, it's okay, man. It's the same thing with weight loss, right? You lose. I was 285 pounds. I'm 220 pounds. Me and my wife ate some pizza today. I didn't gain 65 pounds back. Tomorrow we'll eat all right. Like it's the same kind of thing.
That's right.
It's quite hard. I was going to say that language learning, you're always moving forward, but I do feel that with some of my languages I've actually moved backwards. I was at such a spike in Hungarian because it was honestly starting from zero to being able to have a basic conversation. Okay, in all honesty, I was dating someone back then who was Chinese, so I was focusing a lot of my efforts on learning Chinese, and Hungarian was just not a priority then. And even after we broke up, I was just kind of stuck in this model of focusing more on Asian languages, and then I moved to Singapore, and I just never really got back into Hungarian. And I feel so bad because I've really forgotten a lot of what I learned.
Yeah, I mean that's a time management. I think a lot of people watching, especially your videos, they're like, well, how don't you like? I think a lot of people think that YouTube is your job, and I know like the casual viewer, who maybe they don't follow you on social media, because I know that you post about your real job too. I think people think other people have more time than what they do. Like there's only 24 hours in a day, and I know that you already speak a ton of different languages. So in order to even have a 5-minute conversation, touch base with somebody, and okay, cool, just get a little shot of Korean here and Japanese here and whatever. Like I mean, that's you can spend an hour or two just doing that.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes me feel quite guilty about Hungarian as well, because people are thinking that YouTube is my job and they're expecting these results, and I am someone who tries my best to upload progress videos. I've made one video of like speaks X amount of languages, but I prefer much rather to tackle individual languages per video and show like a 3-month progress or this and this. But yeah, I haven't been able to do that with Hungarian for a while. And
who knows? And something may change. You may be, well, maybe not right now walking down the street, but soon, hopefully soon, maybe walking down the street, you may bump into somebody who's Hungarian, and it reignites the idea, the idea of wanting to learn it.
And is there anything else you want to say to people watching? Maybe any advice?
Yeah, if you honestly, this is going to be an alternate pitch from what a lot of people would probably say, but if you ever want to know how to not properly learn languages, and you just want to be a dabbler and kind of learn a ton about cultures, I'm your guy. Like, if you want to learn a whole bunch of stuff and not really know anything all at the same time, I'm definitely the dude that you want to follow. Or maybe if you want to study, follow me for the sake of learning how not to study.
Oh no! Don't bring yourself.
Yeah, I try to, and that's I try to just be me.
Yeah.
I don't try to.
That's what I like about your channel. You're very honest. You're not pre-scripting things. You're not pretending to be something you're not. I can really see that your intentions are purely to be tracking your own progress, and I really like how you honestly talk through the process and say you're honest about your mistakes and stuff. I think that's a really good mindset to have as a learner.
Yeah, I just like to be. I like to I don't care about money or like I'm not gonna white guy speaks perfect Chinese blows heads off or whatever I love like Xiaoma and I love all those videos, but like that's just not me. Like I'm just me, that's all it is.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me today, Jonathan. It was great to get to know you a bit more in person.
Yeah, absolutely. It was super huge honor. I've been watching your channel for a long time, and I know that we've chatted on whether it be Facebook or Twitter or anything. It's a very surreal experience. Maybe I don't know what the word is, but it's a very cool experience, and I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Jonathan, and I will catch you on your channel then.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.